Think about it. You wake up with a fire in your chest, ready to conquer something big. You've got a plan, a goal, maybe even a dream that kept you awake last night. But the moment you tell someone, just anyone, what happens? That fire dims a little. That dream starts feeling exposed, vulnerable, judged. Why? Because not everyone deserves a seat at the table of your inner world. People think silence is weakness. But silence, strategic, intelligent silence, is your power. It's your protection. You see, when you talk too much, you give others the power to distort your narrative. And once your life becomes public property, it stops belonging to you. There is a difference between privacy and secrecy. Secrecy is rooted in shame. Privacy is rooted in strength. When you keep your plans private, your relationships sacred, your struggles to yourself, it's not because you're hiding, it's because you're preserving. Preserving your energy, your focus, your integrity. Look around. Most people don't listen to understand. They listen to compare, to compete, or to gossip. So when you hand over pieces of your life like free samples, don't be surprised when they get cheapened, criticized, or used against you. Be intentional. Protect your moves like a high-stakes mission, not because you're paranoid, but because you respect what you're building. Your life is not a reality show. It's not up for public voting. And here's the true thing. The most powerful people in the room aren't the ones talking the loudest. They're the ones who observe, who collect information, who move in silence and shock the world with results, not updates. You want to be respected. Stop narrating your every step. Let your evolution be your explanation. Let your growth be your announcement. Because real strength doesn't seek validation. It seeks execution. So, next time you feel the urge to share, pause. Ask yourself, does this person elevate me or evaluate me? Does telling them empower me or expose me? You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your process. Reserve that space for yourself. That's not selfish. That's smart. Stop telling everyone what happens in your life. And start telling yourself what kind of life you're building when no one's watching. You ever notice what happens when you open your mouth too soon? You've got this plan, this burning desire. It's sitting in your chest like dynamite, waiting to be shaped, executed, fulfilled. But before you even take your first real step, you talk, you announce, you tell someone, maybe a friend, maybe someone you think you trust, about what you're going to do, what you're feeling, what you're planning. And in that moment you feel good, don't you? You feel understood, supported, maybe seen, but that feeling, it's a lie. It's a counterfeit version of achievement. Because here's what most people don't realizing: when you share too early, when you narrate your goals or your next move before you've built even the foundation, it doesn't empower you. It robs you. It takes the edge off your urgency. It waters down your drive. And worse, it gives someone else access to your momentum before you've even had the chance to own it yourself. We live in a world obsessed with exposure, with telling, with documenting. People announce their plans before they've made the first move. They post their intentions before they've done any of the hard work. They want applause before they've earned a result. That's not confidence. That's insecurity in disguise. Real confidence doesn't seek validation. It doesn't need to be echoed by someone else to feel real. It's grounded, unshakable. And that kind of confidence, the real kind, gets destroyed the moment you hand it to the wrong person. Because let's be honest, what happens when you talk about your goals too soon? People start projecting, they start questioning, they inject doubt, sometimes subtle, sometimes direct. Are you sure that's realistic? You know, that's really hard. I mean, what if it doesn't work? They smile while they say it. They pretend it's concern, advice, feedback. But it's fear, their limitation, their inability to see themselves doing what you've dared to imagine for yourself. And the moment that seed is planted in your mind, it grows. Doubt grows, hesitation grows, and now your mind is distracted. Your energy is split. You're not focused on execution anymore. You're focused on proving, on convincing, on protecting an idea that was never ready to be exposed in the first place. That's how dreams die, quietly, slowly, death by 1,000 conversations. When I say oversharing diminishes your power, I don't mean it makes you look weak. I mean it makes you feel weak. You lose grip of your own momentum. You trade in inner strength for outer attention. And in doing that, you leak something sacred, your command over your own life, The most dangerous thing about oversharing is that it fools you into thinking you're making progress. But progress doesn't happen in conversations. It happens in execution, in silence, in discipline. When you talk too much, you give away the pressure that's meant to build within you. That pressure, that's your fuel. It's what makes you wake up early, push harder, grind longer. When you keep things to yourself, that pressure compounds. It becomes intensity, focus, action. But when you let it out too early, it deflates, it gets misdirected, it fades. And don't get me wrong, this doesn't mean you isolate. This doesn't mean you become cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. What it means is that you become intentional. You choose when to speak, what to share, who gets access. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your process. Not everyone has earned the right to witness your becoming. You wouldn't give a half-finished manuscript to the world and say, "Here, judge this." So why are you giving them pieces of your life before it's even fully formed? Your plans, they're under construction. They need protection, not because they're fragile, but because you need the space to make them strong before the world sees them. That's not secrecy, that's strategy. You know what real winners do? They don't talk. They train, they work, they study, they build, and by the time the world hears about them, they've already won. The game's already over. That's how power moves. And I'll tell you something, Elsie, the more you speak about your life, the more you open the door to comparison. Now you're not just focused on your own path, you're subconsciously measuring it against others. You start wondering what they think, how they'll react, if they're ahead of you, behind you, and now you're not building for you anymore, you're building for perception. That's when it all falls apart. Privacy brings clarity. It allows you to focus, to refine, to get it right without the noise, without the pressure of expectation. Do you want to succeed? Do you want to win in a way that actually lasts? Then stop handing your energy to people who haven't earned your truth. Stop bleeding motivation into empty spaces. Hold it. Contain it. Let it build. Let it drive you in silence, so your work can speak in volume. The fire inside you doesn't need an audience. It needs fuel. It needs commitment. And above all, it needs to stay protected long enough to grow into something real. So ask yourself, are you sharing your plans to connect, or to be seen? Are you speaking from confidence or from a need to be validated? Because that difference, that's everything. That's what separates the people who do from the people who almost did. The people who walk the talk from the people who talk themselves in circles. Discipline isn't just about your habits. It's about your mouth. What you say, who you say it to, and how early in the process you let people into your world. You want to guard something powerful. Guard your voice. Guard your story. Not out of fear, but out of respect. For your vision, and your mission, and your future. People ask all the time, how do I stay focused? You start by staying silent. You protect your plans the way a seed is protected underground before it becomes a tree. You don't dig it up every day to show the world. You water it. You let it grow out of sight, and one day, when it's strong enough, when its roots are deep enough, it breaks through the surface and shocks everyone who wasn't paying attention. But by thing it's already unshakable. That's the kind of strength you're building. And no one, not even the people who claim to support you, gets to touch that before it's ready. Oversharing is a leak in your foundation. And every time you speak without intention, you're weakening the very structure you're trying to build. You don't need to hide. You need to harden. Harden your boundaries. Harden your process. Harden your discipline. Because power isn't given. It's protected. It's preserved. And then it's unleashed on your terms. So next time you get that itch to tell someone what you're working on, what's happening, what's next, pause, breathe. And remember, the people who move the world aren't the ones shouting about what they're going to do. They're the ones who disappear for a while and come back with proof. Let that be your standard. And here's the truth most people can't stomach. Not everyone deserves access to you. We've been conditioned to think that being open means being honest. That sharing everything with everyone makes us more real, more authentic, more trustworthy. But that's not real authenticity. That's poor boundary management dressed up as vulnerability. The reality, most people haven't earned the right to know you deeply, to hear your thoughts, to witness your struggles, to be invited into the intimate chambers of your personal life. And every time you let someone in who hasn't proven their loyalty, their discretion, their alignment, you are making a gamble with your peace. You wouldn't hand a loaded weapon to someone without training, right? So why are you handing parts of your life, your heart, your plans, your struggles, to people who haven't proven they can hold them responsibly? The people closest to you. Some of them aren't actually rooting for you. They're monitoring you, measuring you, waiting. Not always maliciously, but out of their own insecurities, out of jealousy they don't want to admit. They smile at you, but inside they're hoping you don't get too far ahead. They offer encouragement, but only up to the point where your success doesn't threaten their comfort. And here you are handing them the blueprint. You give away your location, your direction, your playbook, without realizing that they're not cheering for you, they're tracking you. And then you wonder why sabotage shows up, why weird energy starts appearing, why the room feels different after you spoke your truth. It's because you spoke it to the wrong person. We confuse closeness with safety. Just because someone is near you, emotionally, physically, socially, doesn't mean they've earned your truth. That friend from childhood, that family member, that coworker you laugh with. Closeness does not equal trustworthiness. Access must be earned. Ask yourself, have they shown up for you when no one was watching? Have they protected your name in rooms you weren't even in? Have they demonstrated discernment with their own words, their own choices, their own loyalties? Because if the answer is no, and you're still sharing everything with them, you're handing them power over a version of you they don't even respect. It's not about being secretive. It's about being selective. There's a difference. You don't need to build walls around your heart, but you do need to build filters around your life. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about letting the right people in. You can be kind and still private. You can be generous and still guarded. In fact, if you're truly self-respecting, you must be. Because nothing of value is left unguarded. Not banks, not national secrets, not diamonds. So why should your life, your vision, your relationships, your healing, be treated with less protection? And let's talk about energy. Every time you let someone in, you exchange energy. You open a door that either lets light in or lets your power leak out. Some people walk into your life like thieves. Quiet, subtle, charming. But they take your focus. They take your self-belief. They take your sense of direction, and they do it all with a smile, while you call it friendship. But connection without qualification is a liability. And when you don't vet who gets to see the behind the scenes of your life, don't be shocked when they start critiquing the performance you haven't even finished delivering. You want to grow. You want to elevate. Then you better start treating access to you like it's expensive. Because it is. Your energy, your time, your inner world, that's premium real estate. And if you keep giving out front row tickets to people who haven't earned the seat, you're going to keep watching your peace get hijacked by people who never had the maturity to handle it in the first place. This is how strong people stay strong. They know not everyone gets to be part of the process. Not everyone gets to walk with you through the construction zone of your becoming. Some people, they only get to see the ribbon cutting. And that's if they've proven they can applaud without resentment. So the next time you feel like spilling your soul, your plans, your feelings, pause and ask yourself, have they earned the right to carry this part of me? Are they aligned with where I'm going, or are they just familiar with where I've been? Because if someone hasn't earned that access, they don't get it. Not out of malice, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect. And that is how you protect your peace without apology. You ever wonder why some people never seem rattled, never distracted, never leaking energy all over the place? It's not because they don't have problems. It's not because their life is easier. It's because they've learned the power of protection. They protect their progress by protecting their privacy. There's this illusion that the more people you tell, the more real your goals become. That somehow, saying it out loud to others gives it weight. But that's the lie. The truth is, the more people you invite into your process, the more diluted your direction becomes. Because progress doesn't grow under constant observation. It grows in silence, in private, behind locked doors. In quiet hours when no one's looking, that's where real growth happens. That's where transformation takes root. You don't plant a seed and dig it up every day just to show someone it's growing. You leave it in the ground. You water it, you protect it from storms, and then, when it's strong enough, it pushes through on its own. Your progress is the same. It's fragile in the early stages. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need permission. It needs privacy, and not the kind that isolates, the kind that preserves, that creates a barrier between you and the noise, you and the projections, you and the opinions of people who don't even live with the consequences of your choices. You ever notice how fast momentum dies after you over-explain yourself? You have a win, a breakthrough, a moment of clarity, and you get excited. So you share it, you tell someone, maybe several someones, and instead of feeling more committed, you feel drained. Like something was taken from you. It was. What you gave away was intention. What you surrendered was ownership. Now that moment isn't fully yours anymore. It's been observed, evaluated, and your energy, it shifts. It starts thinking about how people perceived what you said instead of what you're actually doing. That shift in focus, that tiny fracture, is enough to pull you off course. Privacy eliminates that fracture. It's not about keeping secrets. It's about keeping power, keeping focus, keeping the process clean from external contamination. Because progress isn't just about doing the work. It's about protecting the space where the work is being done. And that space, it has to be yours. Yours alone. Because the more eyes that watch, the more performances you start giving. And the moment you start performing, you stop transforming. Privacy isn't weakness. It's maturity. It's emotional intelligence. It's understanding that not every step of the journey needs a witness. Sometimes it just needs completion. Quiet, disciplined, unapologetic completion. So if you're serious about progress, about actually moving forward, about building something real, you've got to build a wall around the parts of you still in development. Not to hide, to protect, to preserve your energy for what matters, execution. Because in the end, it's not about how many people know what you're doing. It's about how well you do it when no one's watching. That's the kind of progress that lasts. The kind that doesn't just impress people, but changes you. People have it twisted. They think silence means you're hiding, that you're scared, that you don't have anything to say. But let me tell you something, silence actually means power. Strategic silence is the most underrated form of strength you'll ever develop. Because here's the deal, when you're silent, you're listening, you're watching, you're collecting, you're calculating. And in a world where everyone's trying to be loud, trying to be seen, trying to be heard, you're learning. You're staying in control. You want to know why silence is powerful. Because it forces them to wonder. It puts people in a position where they can't read your hand. They don't know your angle. They don't know what's coming next. And that uncertainty, that's leverage. You control the room by not revealing the one thing everyone wants to know. What's going on in your mind? People who talk too much. They're leaking intel. They're broadcasting their fears, their dreams, their insecurities, their doubts. They're showing all their cards before the game has even started. And the worst part, they think that makes them strong. That being open, being expressive, being vulnerable with everyone is a sign of emotional maturity. No, that's a lack of discipline. You know who wins. The one who watches, not the one who performs. The one who knows everything but says nothing. That's who's really in control. Because silence isn't the absence of voice. It's the presence of restraint. And restraint is a superpower most people never develop because their egos are too loud and their insecurities too needy. You want to know who's dangerous. The person who can sit in a room and say absolutely nothing while reading every single person in it. The one who's not rushing to be seen. Not fighting to be understood. Because they already understand themselves. And when you understand yourself, you don't feel the need to explain. You don't feel the urge to prove. You own your presence without advertising it. Let everyone else talk. Let them fill the air with noise and opinions and performances. While they're distracted with each other, you're locked in, you're focused. You're sharpening your edge. And when you move, it's not random. It's not reactive. It's precise, calculated, quiet. You want to develop real strength. Start here, stop explaining yourself. Stop defending your choices to people who wouldn't understand them anyway. Stop announcing every little thought that runs through your mind like it's headline-worthy. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let your results be the only thing that speaks. That kind of silence isn't avoidance. It's ownership. Because when you can sit with your own thoughts, when you can resist the temptation to be heard just for the sake of being heard, that means you're operating from a place of control. And that control, it spills into every area of your life. Emotional control, mental clarity, tactical discipline. So don't buy into the myth that silence is passive, that it's weakness, that you're losing by not speaking. Sometimes silence is the most aggressive move in the game, because it makes people nervous. It makes them project. It makes them reveal themselves while you reveal nothing. In a loud world, silence is authority. Use it. Master it. Let your quiet become the one thing they never saw coming. You need to understand something most people never figure out. People don't always listen to understand. A lot of the time, they listen to compete. They listen to compare, to collect information, to prepare a response, not to support you, not to align with you, but to measure themselves against you. And once you realize that, you'll think twice before handing over details about your life like they're casual conversation. You talk about a goal you have. Maybe it's a business, a relationship, a change you're trying to make. You think you're sharing, connecting, building trust, but watch closely. Pay attention to the shift in energy, that flicker in their eyes, the fake smile, the subtle, "Oh, that's cool," or the passive-aggressive joke. Well, don't get your hopes up too high. That's not support. That's ego. That's someone who's been triggered. And instead of cheering for you, they're secretly calculating how to stay one step ahead of you. Or worse, how to make sure you don't get ahead of them. You've got to get sharper. Just because someone nods while you're speaking doesn't mean they're for you. Some people are just gathering data. They want to know what you're doing so they can undermine it, beat it, or talk about it when you're not in the room. And then there's another group, the ones who pretend to care, but all they're really doing is waiting for the drama. They listen to your struggles not to help you, but to store your weakness for later use. The moment you slip, they'll be the first to say, "Yeah, I saw that coming." They won't say it to your face. No, they'll say it when it benefits them, when it elevates their status, when it makes them look like they were always one step wiser, one step better. Let me be clear, not every conversation is safe. Not every listener is loyal. And if you don't understand that, you're going to keep getting blindsided by people you thought were in your corner. You want real connection. It starts with discernment. You don't need to isolate yourself, but you do need to vet the people you open up to. Are they really listening to understand? Or are they listening to gather ammo? Do they feel grounded in themselves? Or are they threatened by your evolution? People will project their fears, their failures, and their limitations onto you if you let them. You talk about wanting more, doing more, becoming more, and they shrink. Because it reminds them of the work they're not doing, the life they're not living. And instead of rising with you, they'll try to pull you back down into their comfort zone. Protect your ideas. Protect your peace. Because the wrong conversation at the wrong time with the wrong person can take your energy from a 10 to a 2 real fast. You've got to stop assuming that being open means being smart. It doesn't. Being selective is smart. Being strategic is smart. Not every friend is a safe place. Not every supporter is clapping for you. Some are clapping because they think it keeps you looking the other way while they plant seeds of doubt behind your back. You want to be powerful. Start listening harder than you speak. Read the room. Watch how people respond to your wins. Watch how they show up when you're silent. That's where the truth is. And most of all, stop explaining your vision to people whose mindset can't even comprehend it. You weren't put here to convince small minds. You were put here to build, to grow, to lead. So keep your circle tight, keep your progress quiet, and stop mistaking ears for allies. Most people aren't listening to support you. They're listening for your next move. Don't give it to them. This isn't a movie. This isn't a live-streamed performance. This is your life, and it is not up for public voting. Too many people treat their personal journey like it's supposed to be on display 247. Every move broadcast, every emotion posted, Every decision dissected in real time, like the world has a say in how you live. But here's the raw truth most people won't tell you. The more you turn your life into a show, the more disconnected you become from the truth of who you are. Because now it's no longer about what you want. It's about what looks good, what gets approved, what feels safe to share, what's going to be accepted. And you don't even realize that you've handed the steering wheel of your life to the court of public opinion. You think you're being open, but you're not. You're performing. You're editing your existence in real time for applause that means absolutely nothing when you're sitting alone with your real thoughts, your real struggles, your real desires. And let me be blunt. Some of you have made your life so public, you don't even know how to move in private anymore. You can't make a decision without asking for feedback. You can't celebrate a win unless someone claps. You can't suffer silently because you've conditioned yourself to believe that if no one sees it, it doesn't count. But the most powerful parts of your life, the breakthroughs, the healing, the actual level up, those things don't happen in front of an audience. They happen when it's just you, when it's quiet, when no one's watching, and you've got to face yourself. That's the real growth. That's where the work is done. You want to protect your peace. Stop turning your life into a public referendum. You don't need everyone's opinion on what you're doing. You don't need the committee vote on your choices. And you certainly don't need the world's permission to evolve. You want to start a new path. Do it. You want to end a relationship. Do it. You want to walk away from something that doesn't serve you anymore. Do it. Without posting it, without announcing it, without explaining it, without waiting for people to agree. Because guess what? They won't. And they're not supposed to. Your life isn't a democracy. It's a mission. You don't run it by committee. You lead it with clarity. And if you're still looking for outside approval to feel right about what's right for you, then you're not living. You're acting, and eventually that role will eat you alive. Because no matter how loud the applause is, it'll never drown out the silence you feel inside when you know you're not being real with yourself. The most dangerous kind of noise isn't the sound around you. It's the sound within you that gets louder every time you ignore what you know is right just to stay accepted. That kind of life, it's not sustainable, it's exhausting, and it's fake. So choose silence, choose intention, choose truth over applause. Your peace is not for public entertainment. Your process is not a group project. The people who get to witness your transformation, those should be the ones who've earned that access. Everyone else, they can wait for the results. You want to know what real power looks like. It's not someone constantly talking about what they're going to do. It's the one who just does it. No announcement, no preview, no dramatic trailer, just execution, results, impact. That's the kind of presence that shuts down rooms without ever raising its voice. But you can't get there if you're addicted to updates. If you feel the need to constantly share every small step forward so someone can clap for you, if your progress depends on someone else knowing about it, you're not building for you. You're building for them. You're performing your progress instead of owning it. We live in a culture where everyone wants to be seen. Not for who they are, but for what they're doing. And most of it, it's unfinished. It's just pieces. A little progress here, a temporary win there. But because people are addicted to validation, they rush to post it, to say it out loud, to document it before it's even solid, before it's even stable. And in that rush, they sabotage the very thing they're trying to build. You ever notice how fast a win can go sideways once you talk about it too soon? You post about it, you tell a few people, you start feeling like you've already made it, and suddenly the hunger you had, gone, the fire dimmed, because in your mind, the announcement became the accomplishment. But the people who actually grow, who actually evolve, they don't need to say a word. Their presence changes when they've done the work. You feel it. It's in how they walk, how they speak, how they move. They don't need to convince anyone they've leveled up. You see it. You feel it. That's real transformation. Growth isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's disciplined. It's quiet. It happens in the early mornings, in the late nights, in the uncomfortable in between. And it doesn't need an audience. Because if what you're doing is real, you're too busy building it to be busy broadcasting it. Let your growth be the part of you that people only understand once they notice you've changed. Let your elevation speak for itself. You don't need to convince anyone that you're becoming something powerful. You just become it. Let them see the shift in how you hold yourself. Let them feel the shift in how you no longer tolerate small thinking, petty drama, or shallow energy. You don't owe anyone a running commentary on your life. You don't need to justify your silence. You don't need to explain the shift. If they can't handle your growth in real time, they were never meant to be part of your evolution. You are not here to update people. You are here to become undeniable. So stop narrating every step. Stop trying to prove that you're moving forward. Let the results speak when it's time. Let the transformation show up in your actions, not your words. That's how real power moves. It doesn't announce. It arrives. Validation is a trap, and the sooner you realize that, the faster you take your power back. Every time you reach for someone's approval, you're handing over a piece of your authority. You're letting someone outside of you dictate how you should feel about yourself, your choices, your progress. And that is how you get lost. That's how people with real potential stay stuck. Not because they don't have the ability, but because they keep outsourcing their confidence to other people's opinions. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to get claps. You're not here to fit into someone's expectations. You're here to become. And becoming isn't pretty. It's not always palatable. It doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes with isolation, with people misunderstanding you, with people pulling away because your growth makes them uncomfortable. And if you're still seeking validation during that process, you'll water yourself down just to keep other people comfortable. Let that sink in. Validation isn't free. You pay for it with your authenticity, with your integrity, with your momentum. Every time you change your tone, soften your goals, or hold back your truth just to be accepted, you're shrinking. And the problem is, once you start shrinking, you forget what it feels like to own your space, to walk in your full weight, to live like you don't need permission. Here's the truth, nobody wants to admit it. People will validate you for staying the same. They'll cheer you on when you're predictable, when you're safe, when you're convenient. But start changing. Start thinking bigger. Start separating yourself from the crowd. The applause dies real quick. Because now you're a mirror. You're showing them what they could be doing, but aren't. So if you're still waiting on people to validate your next move, you're putting your life on pause for people who aren't even moving themselves. And here's what makes it worse. Validation becomes addictive. You get a little, and suddenly you crave it. You start measuring your worth by how people respond. You overthink your decisions. You question your instincts. You wait for approval before you act. And now you're not leading your life anymore. You're reacting to it. You want to get serious. Stop needing to be seen. Start focusing on being effective. Because the people who actually make an impact in this world, they don't waste energy chasing claps. They channel that energy into building, into execution, into mastery. They're too busy doing the work to care about who's watching. So if your first instinct is to share something just to hear someone say, "Wow, that's amazing," stop. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it aligns with who I am, or am I doing it because I want someone to tell me I'm enough? Because if it's the second one, that's not strength. That's dependency. That's you putting your worth on layaway until someone else decides to cash it out. You don't need validation. You need alignment. You need discipline. You need truth. Because those three things, they'll hold you steady when the likes disappear, when the compliments stop, when no one's around to hype you up. And that's the version of you that no one can touch. The version that doesn't wait to be seen. The one who's already sure. With or without the noise. Most people don't even realize it, but the more they share, the more trapped they become. Trapped in other people's reactions. Trapped in managing perception. Trapped in explaining themselves to people who were never meant to understand them in the first place. You think openness equals freedom. No, boundaries do. Boundaries are what give you emotional freedom. See, when you don't have boundaries, your life becomes everyone's business. Your energy becomes everyone's playground. And you're constantly in defense mode, defending your choices, your path, your pace. You feel pulled. You feel watched. You feel like you're performing even when you're alone. That's not living. That's being emotionally hijacked by a world that doesn't even care about your well-being. But the moment you start drawing a line, a real line, what you'll talk about, what you'll allow, who gets access, something shifts. You start breathing again. You stop explaining. You stop checking your reflection in other people's eyes. And you finally start owning your space like you were meant to. You've got to understand, boundaries aren't about cutting people off. They're about choosing who gets close. They're not about being cold. They're about being clear. Clear about what fuels you and what drains you. Clear about what you share and what you guard. Because some things are sacred. Your healing is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your growth, especially in its early stages, is sacred. And when you don't protect what's sacred, you let the world contaminate it with noise, judgment, and unsolicited opinions. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud: sometimes the people you need the strongest boundaries with are the ones closest to you. The ones who love you, but love you small. The ones who care, but care with control. The ones who think they're helping, but they're really just afraid of your change. And if you don't set boundaries with them, your growth will always come with guilt. You have to give yourself permission to evolve without explanation. That's the kind of freedom boundaries create. They make room for you to change, to expand, to get quiet, to pivot, to have a bad day, to succeed without flaunting it, to struggle without broadcasting it. Because you don't owe the world your process. You owe yourself protection. And you'll notice when you start building those walls, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, your energy changes. You're not so reactive. You're not exhausted by people anymore. You're not constantly trying to be understood. You start moving different. Because now, you're operating from a place of choice, not obligation. Freedom isn't doing what you want whenever you want. It's being able to protect your inner world so deeply that you can move without apology. Heal without disruption. Succeed without surveillance. That's what boundaries give you. Room to breathe, space to think, and the power to choose who and what gets your time, your voice, your soul, everything else. Silence, everything, distance, everything else. No access. You've got to respect what you're building. Not just like it, not just hope for it. Respect it. That means protecting it like it matters. Because here's the true thing: if you don't treat your vision like it's valuable, no one else will. If you keep handing it out to anyone who asks, talking about it like it's casual, letting it be open to commentary and criticism, you're the one devaluing it before it even has the chance to grow. We don't leave things we value out in the open. You don't take your passport, your cash, or your private information and just lay it out in the middle of the street. So why do you think it's okay to do that with your dreams? With your purpose? With the parts of you that are still under construction? You've got to move like what you're building is sacred. Because it is. Whether it's a business, your healing, a relationship, a personal goal. It deserves discretion. It deserves patience. It deserves protection. And protection doesn't mean you're scared. It means you're strategic. It means you know your mission isn't up for discussion. It's not up for validation. It's not up for interpretation. It's yours. This is about discipline, self-respect. It's about understanding that your life is not some open-source project that everyone gets to contribute to. You're not a group chat. You're not a suggestion box. You're a force in progress, and if you keep pausing your momentum to explain yourself, to justify yourself, to respond to every doubt or piece of unsolicited advice, you're going to slow down a process that's meant to move with precision. The most dangerous thing you can do when you're building something real is to make it public too soon. Because the moment you invite the wrong eyes into the process, you allow doubt to creep in, even if it's subtle, even if it's dressed as concern, one raised eyebrow, one offhand comment, one, "Are you sure?" That's all it takes to shake your focus if you're not locked in. Respect shows up in the way you move, in the way you protect your time, in how you filter your conversations, in how you choose not to speak on things that are still in progress. That's not secrecy. That's wisdom. That's playing the long game. You don't owe anyone a preview. You don't need to validate your silence. You don't need to soften your ambition just to make it easier for others to swallow. The more you respect what you're building, the less you'll feel the need to prove anything at all. And make no mistake, there will be people who don't understand that, who call it distant, arrogant, mysterious. Let them talk, let them misunderstand, because when you finally show up with something finished, something real, something undeniable, you won't need to say a single word. They'll see it. You're not here to impress people. You're here to execute. So keep your head down, keep your circle clean, and most of all, respect the process like your future depends on it, because it does. So here's the bottom line. Your life is not a community project. It's not for broadcast. It's not up for approval. It's yours. And the more sacred you treat it, the more powerful it becomes. Everything you're building, your mindset, your purpose, your future, deserves your protection. That means being intentional with your voice, selective with your circle, and disciplined with your focus. Because not everyone needs to know what's happening behind your scenes. Not everyone gets a front row seat to your evolution. Most won't understand it, many won't support it, and some will try to sabotage it. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them sit in the silence you've chosen. Because while they're watching for your next move, you're busy becoming it. This is your reminder: privacy is power. Discretion is discipline. And the strongest ones, the ones who truly rise, aren't the ones talking the loudest. They're the ones moving in silence, protecting their process, and letting their results say everything. So stop telling everyone what happens in your life. Start showing up for yourself without explanation.